Light academia. She's like the soft, dainty sister style to dark academia, which is a style that I explored in last week's video. Light academia is basically a style that looks like it's been plucked from the pages of a classic novel. Hi. With a timeless, airy yet cozy look that just drips with utter prettiness. So in this video, I am going to give you some ideas for creating a light academia look in a small bedroom. And if you're new here, my name is Steffi, and on this channel I talk about small apartment styling tips, cozy living, and the joys of living alone. So if you're into that, consider subscribing and giving this video a like. So much like how light academia is a sister style to dark academia, this video will pretty much be a sister video to last week's. It's pretty much gonna be structured the same, just the other side of the yin-yang. And of course, I will be linking all of these pieces in the description if you want to check them out. So first, let's talk about the bed. Just like last week's dark academia video, I have a couple sofa bed recommendations to start with in case you have a super small bedroom that would benefit from a sofa bed, day bed, futon situation. Nowadays, they can be really cute. It's not just reserved for dorm rooms and fresh out of college bachelor pads, you know? There's actually some cute options out there. So here are a couple that would be possibly good fits for a light academia tiny bedroom. There's this one, which is a really pretty sort of dusty mauve color and some really pretty tufting. Really anything with tufting is gonna have that timeless classic look, which is pretty much what you're going for in a light academia situation. And then there's also a daybed like this one, which is a bit more modern and masculine, which can still work in light academia. I think the rich brown here could be a really pretty anchor to the more ethereal, light academia pieces surrounding it. And it still has that sort of timeless quality to it and would just be a kind of nice point of contrast. So those were just a couple sofa bed options in case you have such a tiny room that it would benefit from the flexibility of a sofa bed. Now let's get into the styling of regular size beds. So first, let's talk about the headboard. Like I said in my dark academia video, headboards are a great way to make a strong style statement in a small bedroom because they only take up vertical space and not additional square footage. So here are some headboard options for a light academia look. Light academia is an awesome style for vintage finds. I especially think this gold or brass headboard would be really pretty because I think that little sparkle in the metal, along with what looks like maybe mother of pearl accents here, I just think that would be so pretty in a light academia room. And then this other sort of flower-shaped headboard would be a way to take the light academia aesthetic and sort of modernize it just a little bit. You know, it is a little bit more on the boho side, but it also still fits with the light academia sensibilities. So those were a few headboards that I think would look really pretty in a light academia bedroom. And just keep in mind, especially if you have a really small bedroom, don't sleep on the headboard, so to speak. Don't underestimate the power of a good headboard because a headboard can really be the visual hero in a small bedroom. And then your bedding and throw pillows are also important for making a strong visual focal point out of your bed. So here's some ideas for bedding and pillows. When I was looking for these, of course, I was generally sticking to a lighter color palette, and I was definitely looking for the soft floral patterns, neutral, blushy, mauvey hues, ornate, embellished patterns, and just a lot of pretty softness. And of course, a classical bust is an essential for any academia styled room. And I think it would be an interesting take on that style trope to have the bust be present on a pillow as a design. Just kind of a cool little spin on the presence of a bust in a space. And then I also wanted to include a little point of contrast, because the danger in just using exclusively light colors is that it could all kind of wash out. So that's where this just simple brown burnt orange pillow comes in. Having little moments of contrast to sort of break up the white void that you could potentially end up with. Let's ground it in certain spots, you know? Now here are some dressers that I think would look really pretty in a light academia bedroom. And it's a mix of vertical and horizontal dressers. Like I said in my last video, if your bedroom is super tiny, you might want to stick with vertical dressers rather than horizontal, because they take up less floor space and make use of vertical space. And vertical space is always our friend in a small bedroom. And of course, with these dressers, it's about sticking with a lighter color palette, but also considering how like a grounded wood could act as that contrast point that would break up the lightness of the space. And some good like vintage looking or truly vintage wood pieces are just inherently perfect for either of the academias. You know, like for me, if I were to do a light academia room, the color palette would basically be like whites, creams, and browns. Once again, the brown comes in to sort of ground the lightness. So that's where a wood dresser like one of these two could come in. But honestly, it would be really hard to resist one of these three dressers in particular, because they're just so pretty and detailed, and just honestly, these three dressers are my favorites because they just look like they're fit for a princess, a scholarly princess, like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. If you think about it, Belle really is like an academia style queen. Now let's move on to nightstands. So these nightstands not only would be lovely in a light academia bedroom, but I also made sure to select nightstands that have storage, because of course small spaces need as much storage as possible, and your nightstand is an easy way to add a couple more drawers to hide things in. And just like with the dressers, what I was looking for with these nightstands was that vintage charm, anything that looks thrifted, anything that looks hand painted or handcrafted in any way. This is where Etsy really can shine. Really look out for unique, interesting pieces that have interesting lines, embellishments, and or patterns. And once again, adding a couple wood options to bring this ethereal style down to earth. Now let's get into some decorative accents that would be well suited for a light academia bedroom. This is the fun part, in my opinion, you know, the pretty little details. As you can see, it's continuing with the light, airy color palette and a lot of florals, like this floral wallpaper I think would be so pretty in a light academia room. Same thing with this rug. Of course, you have to have old books in a light or dark academia room. It's practically an obligation for these academic styles. And also with a light academia room, you have such a fun opportunity to incorporate vintage looking lighting. And then of course, a Baroque style mirror like this one really lends itself to a light academia look. Some light, pretty florals. And remember what I said about having sort of a different twist on the bust trope? for this style. This lamp is also an interesting way to incorporate a bust, but not just a straightforward bust, because this is also a pretty soft, glowy lamp. I think anytime you can take sort of a classic visual and just sort of twist it a little bit, it adds instant visual interest. Sort of along those lines is this print. What I love about it is it has the light, dainty, frilly lace of the dress, but it's juxtaposed with the sword that she's holding. I think anytime you take a really soft, light, feminine style and just add a little bit of unexpected darkness to it, that's also a great way to add like a little pop of, you know, something unexpected. I think with any style, if you can take what is expected of that style and then counter it with things that would be considered sort of opposite of the style, like incorporate those little moments in small ways, that's when you have an interesting visual story going on in your space. So think about how you can have little moments of, wasn't expecting that, you know? So that was a little shopping guide for creating a light academia look in a small bedroom. Now let's see how these pieces can come together in a hypothetical bedroom design. Like I did with my dark academia video, I designed this mock-up to show you how some of these things I picked out can come together to convey an overall light academia look. Now, this is just to show how these pieces could potentially work together visually, not with scale, measurements, and furniture arrangement in mind. This is more of a broad idea of how these pieces could potentially look when put together. If you're in a really small bedroom, here's a modified version of the design with a sofa bed and vertical dresser. You can either just have one vertical dresser or put two together depending on your space, and then you would just want to choose a bedspread. So those were some light academia decor ideas specifically for a small bedroom. Let me know in the comments, are you more into light academia or dark academia? Like if you had to choose one, which would you choose? Honestly, I would probably choose dark academia because, you know, my soul just naturally dwells in darkness. But I would be really tempted to sort of move out of my comfort zone, my dark cave of a comfort zone, and go for something more light and feminine and pretty, like light academia. I really love the style. I wish I could have multiple apartments where each would have a different design so that I can just get every style that I love out of my system. Wouldn't that be awesome? Or maybe like a superpower where you just snap your fingers and you can just change the way a room looks just based on your mood. That would be cool. And if you missed last week's Dark Academia video, I definitely recommend you watch it next. Like I said, it's definitely a sister video to this one. So if you're a lover of both sides of the academia style coin, watch this one next.